Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this man back. He's my go-to guy. We go to Mike when it comes to any sort of lawfare that's happening, any sort of Supreme Court debacle that's going on. It is Mike Davis, founder and president of the Article 3 Project. Mike, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing well, and thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. You know, we just laughed about this a second ago. How is Michael Avenatti the wild card in all of this? Michael Avenatti, the guy who the Democrats and all the big media said would be the next president of the United States, who's cooling his heels in prison, I believe. I guess he put out some statement that Stormy Daniels approached him in 2016 with some other guy. Let's go and extort Trump. Is that real? Is that really what's going on in this case, Mike?
It seems like it, because what you have here is you have Stormy Daniels signing a letter back in 2018 saying that she did not have any sort of relationship with Trump, and then she's testifying today with her salacious, unfairly prejudicial, irrelevant testimony about her supposed encounter with Trump in 2006, and then the settlement of her nuisance claim by Trump's attorney at the time, Michael Cohen, in 2017, and somehow Bragg and Colangelo believe that 2017 payment somehow was election interference in 2016. This is a bizarre case. It is a very weak case.
Well, that's the thing, Mike. It's a 2017 payoff, right? This nuisance claim. He was already the president. What did I miss? Was this right before he was inaugurated or what?
No, it was in 2017. I mean, that's the issue.
Well, he was inaugurated on January 20th. Was it before January 20th?
I don't believe so. I
don't think so either. So it doesn't make sense. So how is this to win the election if you already won?
Yeah, I mean, he was already in the White House, so I don't know how it's election interference.
It's Mike Davis. Go to article3project.org, article3project.org. Can we talk a little bit about Michael Cohen? Here's the guy that was on Hannity every night, that was on all the right-wing outlets. I never interviewed him, thank God, because it would have made me sick by now. But it turns out he's a convicted felon who lied, and now he's their star witness. Just give me a little background on this guy. As a lawyer, first and foremost, why did he just give up his client's inside information if we believe what he's saying to be true? I thought this privilege was a big deal, that you don't say what your client tells you.
Well, maybe you don't care anymore after you're a disbarred attorney, because he's a disbarred attorney. He's a convicted perjurer, and we heard testimony that he's very bitter that President Trump didn't make him the White House counsel President Trump went to the White House in 2017. And if anyone goes and watches his TikTok videos where he's getting paid by TikTok, allegedly, to trash Trump, you can see why President Trump wouldn't put this buffoon in as White House counsel.
But I mean, he was the star witness. He was and Scaramucci's not involved in this. But Mike, just in an opinion here, do you have any opinion as to why these people get so vehemently anti-Trump? Same thing with Chris Christie. You get the feeling they didn't get some sort of weird appointment, or in Scaramucci's case, he had an appointment, then he failed. He was horrible at it. And now they just absolutely will do anything. Doesn't matter how conservative they are. Doesn't matter how much financial conservatism they've lived with their entire lives. Like Scaramucci's not a dumb financial guy, but these people just hate Trump through and through. Do you think that they really thought that they would be like sitting to the right hand of the king? What is this?
I think that these guys have giant, fragile egos, and their giant, fragile egos get bruised, and it sends them into a spiral. This Trump derangement syndrome is a real illness for some of these people with big, fragile egos, and it tends to be these men who are the biggest pansies on the planet, who have the thinnest skins on the planet, and they are just broken by President Trump, and it's just kind of amusing to watch.
This is a non-case to anybody who's got a brain. It might be a case in Manhattan. I don't know. But do you think at this point it's just a matter of keeping him in the courtroom? It's just a matter of winning? They don't really think they could win. I mean, especially on appeal they would lose, but they might lose to a Manhattan jury as bad as this case is going.
I actually think that they're still going to find Trump guilty and convict him because this process has been so rigged against Trump. You have this Soros-funded Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, and then they deploy this senior Biden Justice Department official, Matthew Colangelo, to go bring this bogus case against Trump, passed over by the prior Manhattan DA, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney, the Federal Election Commission, and Bragg himself. They're in front of this Manhattan Democrat Judge Juan Merchan, who donated to Biden in 2020. He donated to another
No conflict. No conflict.
Yeah, no conflict. And more importantly, his adult daughter, Lauren Merchan, has raised millions of dollars off of this unprecedented criminal prosecution. And then we have a jury selection process where the jury pool is already 87% Biden voters.
Right.
And then this judge asked the potential jurors whether they follow Trump on social media, but not whether they follow Biden. This is such a rigged process. This Judge Merchan, who should have recused under New York statute, allowed this truckload of highly prejudicial, unfairly prejudicial, and irrelevant evidence in today. It was so bad that he was even backtracking after Stormy Daniels, this whore who they brought in to be the star witness, gave her testimony today. So you have Michael Cohen, a liar and disbarred attorney, and this porn star whore, Stormy Daniels, as their key witnesses. This is a clown show, and there's no reason this should be in trial right now. This is all about lawfare and election interference. They brought this case. This supposed sexual encounter happened in 2006.
Right.
This payment happened in 2017. Here we are in 2024 in the heat of the presidential election, and Judge Merchan is allowing this clown show. And his adult daughter is raising millions of dollars off of it. This is a disgrace.
It's Mike Davis, article3project.org, article3project.org. I want to talk about the mechanisms of checks and balances and so on when it comes to a case like this. I agree with everything you just said. This judge clearly should have been recused himself. This case should not have been brought, especially after Alvin Bragg himself said it shouldn't have been brought. They're tying it to federal election laws where the FEC already said there's no violation. So what's the mechanism in the United States of America, the freest, fairest, best country on the planet, when you've got a judge that's clearly tainted? He donated to the opposition. His adult daughter, who they're gagging the defendant because of his adult daughter, who should be spoken about because of what she's doing. Is there any way through checks and balances to say, no, you can't sit on this case. No, you can't have it in Manhattan where it's a bogus jury. No, you can't bring charges where people already turned down bringing charges 3 different times. Is there nothing that can be done here?
This New York legal system is so hopelessly corrupted by partisanship that Trump does not have a chance in New York. What needs to happen is on November 5th, 2024, the American people need to send an overwhelmingly strong message that the American people, not these Democrat prosecutors and judges and witnesses and these Democrat hellholes of New York, D.C., and Atlanta, get to pick our president. The American people need to send a resounding message on November 5th, 2024, and then the Trump 47 Justice Department on January 20th, 2025 must open a criminal probe on this obvious criminal conspiracy to violate constitutional rights of Trump, his top aides like Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon, his attorneys like John Eastman and Jeffrey Clark, his January 6 supporters. This is an obvious criminal conspiracy by Biden, by his White House counsel, Jonathan Sue, by his Justice Department officials, including Merrick Garland and Matthew Colangelo, and these Democrat prosecutors like Alvin Bragg and Tish James and Fani Willis and that Arizona Attorney General. This is a criminal conspiracy to violate rights for the purpose of interfering in the election. That's a violation of 18 U.S.C. 241, along with many other criminal statutes. It's a very serious civil rights felony. And there must be severe legal, financial, and political consequences come January 20th, 2025.
I agree with you on all of that, but Mike, is the Court of Appeals in New York, which is the highest court, Supreme Court is the second highest court in New York, is the Court of Appeals fair enough that it would throw this garbage conviction out if he's convicted?
No,
Really?
The New York court system is lost to left-wing whack jobs. People like Judge Arthur Engoron and people like Judge Juan Merchan. The New York is lost, and here's the bigger consequence to this. They think that they're going after Trump, and this is going to go away after Trump goes away. These New York prosecutors and courts are going to scare away all these New York businesses and business people because they see what's happening to Trump, a billionaire, former and likely future president of the United States. Guess what? If they can do this to Trump, they can do this to any of you guys.
Can you tell me, is he gonna throw him in jail over the gag order? And maybe, again, I keep saying the word mechanism, but I want it to make sense in my logical and rational brain. What's the mechanism by which this judge can now charge him 10 times with contempt and actually threaten jail time?
Yeah, for pointing out that this judge's adult daughter, Lauren Merchan, is raising millions off this case, requiring Judge Merchan's recusal under New York statute. Even a former federal Clinton judge from the Southern District of New York went on Caitlin Collins' show on April 5th on CNN and said that the statute requires Merchan's recusal. What was his response? Expanding this illegal, unconstitutional gag order. Trump can't talk about Colangelo. Trump can't respond to Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels trashing a criminal defendant, which the gag orders are supposed to protect the criminal defendant.
Right.
Cohen and Stormy Daniels should be gagged. It won't be the first time Stormy's gagged, but
hey, wait a second.
they should be gagged, not President Trump, right? And it's just outrageous that you have a criminal defendant who's gagged and can't respond.
Yeah.
And Trump's even being threatened to be there. Judge Merchan is threatening to put Trump in jail for merely pointing out that the Manhattan jury pool voted 87% for Joe Biden. Somehow that's a violation of the gag order.
Of course it's not. It's Mike Davis, Article3Project.org. He's the founder and the president of their Article 3 project. So the Jack Smith case in D.C., we're hearing that the actual, like the White House, those who handle the records, got a hold of Trump's people and said, hey, you got a bunch of stuff over here. Where do you want it? It wasn't even Trump saying take those things and send them to Mar-a-Lago. It was, I don't know if it was the National Archives or who it was. We're hearing that they contacted him. We're also hearing that the pictures that you and I both saw that were allegedly the classified documents at Mar-a-Lago were not. They were some pictures that the FBI just made and framed and set up. So what is that case? That case looks like it's more than dead, but of course it's not. It's in Washington, D.C. Fill us in on the latest. Did I get that right, that Trump didn't take the stuff, that the National Archives actually said, do you want this stuff or what?
Yeah, this is, we've been talking about this for 22 months since the Mar-a-Lago raid, the illegal, unprecedented, unnecessary raid on President Trump, the Office of Former President for Presidential Records he's allowed to have under the Presidential Records Act. This was orchestrated by President Biden through his deputy White House counsel, Jonathan Sue, working with the National Archives, with Jay Bratt over at the Justice Department. And the reason they did this is because President Trump declassified the day before he left office the Crossfire Hurricane records that are so damaging to Biden, to Obama, to Hillary, to the AG, to Comey, to the to so many actors, Clapper, Brennan, because these Democrat operatives, the president and all these Democrats made up the Russian collusion hoax against President Trump because Hillary had her home server, her illegal home server hacked,
right,
likely by the Russians, and they were worried this hacked material showing the Clinton Foundation's pay-for-play foreign bribery schemes would come out before the 2016 election. They got illegal FISA warrants with the FISA court. They spied on Trump as a candidate. They spied on him as the president of the United States. And when that comes out, when those declassified records come out, it is game over for these guys. That's the real criminal conspiracy.
Well, Mike, if they're declassified and Trump did do that, why haven't we seen them yet?
Well, the problem is that the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ ran to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and said, if you release these materials, you're going to violate the Privacy Act. You're going to put sources and methods out there. You're going to put people in danger. The typical BS.
It's the old sources and methods thing.
Yeah, you hear from the intel agency. So Mark Meadows on January 20th, 2021 said, okay, do your Privacy Act review and get out these materials right after that. Well, guess what? They didn't do their Privacy Act review. They went to a biased magistrate judge, Bruce Reinhart, who had just recused on Trump's civil case against Hillary Clinton 6 weeks prior on Crossfire Hurricane. Trump sued Hillary on Crossfire Hurricane. These Crossfire Hurricane records were going to come out in that civil lawsuit. And that's why Bruce Reinhart, that bias magically went away 6 weeks later when Jay Bratt and the Justice Department, the Biden Justice Department, went to this biased judge who trashed Trump on Facebook in 2017, requiring his recusal. And this judge, Bruce Reinhart, ordered this raid on Trump for presidential records he's allowed to have. It was to go get those Crossfire Hurricane records.
As far as you know, Mike, am I right, though, that they called him and said, hey, get these documents, where do you want them?
Yeah,
That's the story that I saw in the last couple of days, that it wasn't Trump himself saying, hey, load up the U-Haul with these 15 boxes. Somebody called his administration or his handlers and said, do you want this stuff or not?
Yeah, and it's perfectly acceptable for a former president to have his presidential records. It's allowed by the Presidential Records Act. It doesn't matter whether they're classified or not. That's why former presidents get federally funded staff with security clearances. They get secure office space. They get 24/7 365 Secret Service protection, presidents are allowed to have their presidential records, whether they own them as personal records under the Presidential Records Act, or they have access to them as government records under the Presidential Records Act. They're allowed to have their presidential records any time they want.
Mike Davis, founder, president, Article 3 Project. Mike, it sounds like you think there's going to be a conviction of some sort in New York. I think the Fulton County case is dead. It looks like the records case by Jack Smith is out the window. How do you feel about the standing or the status of all of these cases? Is New York the one that looks like he's going to get something that he would have to appeal?
Yeah, and selfishly, from a political perspective, if the Democrats are going to try to take him down with one of these cases, this is the best one for Trump, because this is such a laughably stupid, absurd case that the American people are not going to accept the fact that these Democrats have labeled Trump a felon and may try to imprison him over this. They're going to turn Trump into Nelson Mandela. He's going to win in a landslide, maybe 4 points.
Yeah, listen, I'm hoping the same thing happens. I mean, at this point, though, it's neck and neck. We're told that the American people are fine with how bad Biden's been. It's very, very close to the race. I think it might be more than 4 points. It's Mike Davis, founder, president, Article 3 Project. Go to the article3project.org, article3project.org, and go support everything he does. Mike, thanks for jumping on today. Great update. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, brother. We're back after this. Stay right here.